500,000 people. 8 years. One man. That's the simplest way to describe Uganda from 1971 to 1979. Amin's 8-year audition for the history books nobody wants to read. His security forces turned the country into an open-air abattoir. Tires that doubled as flaming necklaces. Crocodiles in the Nile that learned to wait for supper. If you've never heard the full story, buckle in. The scale of cruelty is almost impossible to swallow. Idi Amin was born around 1925 in Kiboko, a dusty border town where the Sahara's fingerprints start to show. Poor, Muslim, and barely literate. He was, however, enormous by 17. He'd already quit school and signed up as a cook in the King's African Rifles. Sounds harmless, right? Inside the army, he picked up 3 skills that mattered more than spelling. How to fight, how to salute, and how to make grown men wet themselves. He boxed for the regiment, became heavyweight champion of East Africa, and shot up the ranks because British officers liked that he followed orders like a Labrador. Fast forward to 1962. Independence from Britain. Uganda's newborn army needs native officers. So Captain Amin becomes Major Amin to keep the northern tribes smiling. 2 presidents come and go like bad weather. Then, in January 1971, President Obote is sipping tea in Singapore. Overnight Amin takes the airport, the radio station, and the Army HQ. The coup is almost bloodless at first. Next morning, he faces the cameras, grinning, joking, promising he's only the babysitter. The world laughed along. After all, this is the guy who once carried a British general's suitcase. Who could have guessed he'd rack up a body count that would make history blush? The killings start before the honeymoon's over. Obote, loyalists mostly Akoli, and Landry soldiers are herded into ginger barracks and machine-gunned. In neat rows, their bodies are loaded onto trucks and tipped into the Nile. Fishermen later swear they saw crocodiles playing catch with arms and legs. By 1972, the net widens. Amin announces he's uncovered a plot. No one ever sees the evidence. More than 300 soldiers, civil servants, and politicians vanish. Among them, Chief Justice Benedict Wanaka dragged from the High Court in his scarlet robes, taken to an army camp, and clubbed with rifle butts until his skull cracked like cheap pottery. Weeks later, his wife gets handed his blood-soaked robe in a plastic bag. Reporters ask awkward questions. Amin invites them to tea, cracks jokes about their little stories, then has the crew escorted out, while the next wave of arrests is phoned in. The message is simple: nobody's safe, and nobody's watching. In 1972, Amin sets up the State Research Bureau. Sounds like a sleepy think tank, doesn't it? It's actually a torture house on Nakasero Hill, next to the Nile Mansions Hotel. Prisoners arrive after midnight, stripped naked, and quizzed about imaginary conspiracies. The menu: electrodes on genitals, nails through kneecaps, and the wheel, a man tied across a tire, doused in petrol, and lit like a grotesque barbecue. The clerks keep meticulous files names, dates, disposal points in, the same tidy script they once used for parking tickets. When Tanzanian troops captured the building in 1979, they found 7,000 individual folders. Thousands more never made the list. They were simply erased. August 1972. Amin ambles onto TV and gives Uganda 60,000 Asian citizens 90 days to pack up. Their crime: milking the economy. He delivers the edict with a grin and a wink, like he's selling second-hand cars. Markets shutter overnight. Families who'd lived in Uganda for 3 generations unload sewing machines. Wet in gold, entire factories for pennies on the dollar. Amin's crony soldiers who'd never balanced a checkbook get handed the keys. Within a year, the sugar mills go quiet, the cotton gins rust, and shops collect nothing but dust. Foreign exchange dries up. Inflation hits 200%. Ugandans queue for soap, that no longer exists because the Indian wholesalers have been chased out. Poverty and starvation start tallying numbers the bullets could only dream of. January 1977. Anglican Archbishop Janani preaches a sermon condemning the shedding of innocent blood. 2 weeks later, his car is forced off the road. He's taken to the State Research Bureau, beaten 4 hours, then driven to an army barracks. The official line: car accident. At the funeral, mourners see the bullet hole in his chest. His cassock is soaked red. The regime tells newspapers the hole was from the steering column. Nobody believes it, and nobody prints otherwise. June 1976. An Air France jet is hijacked by Palestinian and German militants and flown to Amini, posing as mediator, actually welcomes the hijackers and sends them fresh fruit and crates of After Israeli commandos staged the famous rescue, Amin takes revenge on the one hostage left behind, 70 Dora Block, recovering in Kampala hospital. Soldiers drag her from her bed, march her into the bush, and shoot her. Her body turns up months later, hands tied behind her back with speaker wire. 4 years, the Nile keeps swallowing villagers along the banks tell of nights when lorries arrive and soldiers dump 30, sometimes 50 corpses at a time. Children are warned not to fish after dusk. The crocodiles have learned to wait. One fisherman sees a body face down, recognizes his neighbor by the scar on the shoulder, and quietly pushes it back into the current burial is impossible. The river becomes a watery archive of anonymous grief. By 1978, the economy's a carcass. Soldiers haven't been paid in months, and Amin's paranoia has turned cannibal. He invades Tanzania, claiming to reclaim lost territory. The Tanzanians counterattack with Ugandan exiles. Kampala falls in April 1979. Amin flees to Libya in a cargo jet stuffed with gold bars, a dozen wives, and crates of whiskey. He will live out his days in Saudi Arabia, diabetic and delusional. Still convinced he was the nation's loving father, he dies in 2003. Never once facing a judge. Historians argue the final tally 300,000 to 500,000 dead. Roughly 1 out of every 45 Ugandans alive in 1971. We'll never know the exact number. Entire families were deleted from the census. Today, the State Research Bureau is a crumbling office block with weeds pushing through the interrogation rooms. Tourists snap selfies outside, unaware the walls still smell faintly of bleach and old fear. Amin's greatest crime wasn't just murder. It was teaching Uganda that cruelty could be casual, that a dictator could crack jokes while signing death warrants, that a whole society could pretend it wasn't happening. The crocodiles of the Nile, at least, never pretended. Thanks for watching. If this story left you stunned, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and share your thoughts below.